everyone, and welcome to another episode of New Breakpoint. My name's Simon Waite, coming to you today from sunny Sydney. We've got another great show lined up for you today. I'm going to be joined by my colleague JT in just a moment, and I think we might have a special guest coming up as well. If you'd like to join in, go over to our YouTube channel. You can use the chat next to the YouTube video to put questions in or comments. If you're catching the show later, or if you're watching this on Twitter, you can also leave comments on our Twitter handle that you can see there on the screen. If you really like the show content that you're seeing, feel free to sign up for our once a month developer newsletter that myself and JT help curate the content for our Aussie developer audience. And finally, as always, if you are collaborating with our community, make sure that you read, understand, and adhere to our code of conduct, because we want everyone to have a great experience when they're participating in the work that we're doing. So my guest for today, JT, is a man I work with very closely in the work that we do with the Azure developer community here in Australia. And he's been doing some fantastic work in helping us launch Cloud Skills Challenge here. And in doing that, he's built some great technology solutions to some of the common challenges he was facing rolling that out. So let me bring JT on to the stream. Hey, JT, how are you doing this morning?
Hi, I'm doing all right. How are you?
I'm doing well. How's Melbourne?
It's not so sunny in Melbourne. It's a little bit grey out there.
We know Melbourne has 4 seasons in one day, so maybe this afternoon will be a bit different for you.
Look, could be sunny this afternoon.
Could be sunny this afternoon. Always look on the sunny side. Hey, I did want to chat to you just briefly before you get kicked off with your content. You and I both know Build is coming up next week. There's some amazing content that's coming. We could talk ad nauseum about it, but I was wondering, did you think there could be anybody else that we might be able to get involved? I don't know. Do you think there might be someone else that might have an opinion on what's best for developers coming from Build?
I'm a little bit offended that you didn't think that I was going to be a special enough guest to talk about this, and I was racking my brain about who's got a higher profile in Microsoft than I do. Honestly, I mean, I've got 915 Twitter followers. I'm practically famous, but I think look, there's a few people that spring to mind. I don't know. We probably wouldn't be able to pull Sarcher back in. He's already come and visited us a little while ago. He's probably quite busy.
Yeah. I don't know.
Who are you thinking?
You know what? I think I know just the person actually. A lot of you would probably know him as the self-proclaimed world's okayest developer. I know this guy. Yes, you do.
I've spoken to him before.
Yeah. So let's get him onto the call. Ta-da, Mr. Hanselman.
Scott Hanselman.
It's the man himself.
Lower your expectations, everyone. How are you?
Let me remove my slides here so we can see humans. It's great to see humans on the screen. Scott, welcome.
How are you?
I'm doing well today. So I understand that you wanted to share some stuff with us as well to really help set the scene for Build. So let me bring up something that you pre-shared with us here. Am I okay to share your screen?
Do what you got to do, yeah.
Do what I got to do? Okay, cool.
Cool, yeah. So we've been working our butts off on trying to make Build not suck this year. And last year was quite challenging. The last year or so, of course, I think we can all agree has been quite challenging. So the developer division, the division that I work in, and we make the Azure SDKs and the developer tools and all the things like that, have been trying to think about something that we could do that would be a little bit different. It will probably be the most interesting and out there and risky kind of 30-minute keynote that I've ever done. It's going to be on day 2. So morning of day 1, you'll see Satya and our different friends. Day 2, you'll get a little bit of Guthrie, and then they'll do kind of like that talk show kind of vibe that we've seen with like Seth and friends. That'll all be live, and then they'll cut to me and my friends, little Hanselman and friends action. So I can show you the first 1 minute of the thing.
Please. I'm super excited by this. I haven't seen this before.
This is the first 1 minute. Oh. Another Teams meeting.
Dude, then don't. Go to Seattle.
I can do that? Yeah, you're the world's okayest programmer. Yeah.
All right, whenever you're ready.
4C with cheese, please.
All right, first window.
Thank you.
Second dose?
Yep.
All right, last name.
Hanselman.
And then relax your arm. 1, 2, 3.
That was it?
And that was it.
Magical.
All right.
Thank you.
Do this live in Seattle with humans.
Ooh.
Mr.
What's
TikTok
behind
influencer
the
as well.
door?
I'm huge on the talk.
Doing all that C# training as well. It's awesome. Hey, look, we probably can't get ourselves into talking about exactly what we're going to announce at Build because we all love our jobs so much. None of us wants to be watching from the outside next year after breaching NDAs and what have you. But there is some amazing content coming up. And I did want to ask Scott before he let him get back to his evening is who's going to be the special guest, Scott, holding your microphone at this year's Build? And if anybody out there doesn't get that reference, go back and have a look at some of the Build keynotes that Scott's done in previous years.
We had a microphone fail last Build there, and I was, I don't know, lucky enough to have Guthrie hold it up there. It's so weird. People thought that was staged. Like, why would I try to make my microphone break at the most important conference of my entire career? You know what I mean? Like, of course, they're all
chaos engineering, Scott. Come on, chaos engineering.
No.
All right. Look, I know it's early evening for you, Scott. We appreciate you giving up some family time this evening to come and help sell the local community on signing up for Build. It is a free event. You can get to the sign up page at aka.ms/build. We'll put the details up at the end of the show. Scott, thank you very much for joining us today. We look forward to seeing you at Build next week.
Can I show you one more thing before you kick me out of the world?
Yeah. He's got more.
Don't stop
just
yet.
one more thing.
I did.
Bring it.
It's better than steak knives. Go up to my my Twitter, and I made a list of the sessions that I'm going to. So when you register for Build, you just go to this tweet here, and click on it, and it'll have the sessions that I'm going to, and then you can add. When you're logged in, you'll see Add to Backpack, and you can go and add each of them, and make sure that you click over here where it says Tuesday because there's multiple days, right? That's just Tuesday. Then you click on Wednesday, and you can see the different talks that I think ones that I'm excited about that I'm going to watch, and then you can go and add them to your backpack when you're logged in. So again, I got to that from here. Okay, so just
virtually sit next to you, Scott.
Go to the MS Build hashtag. I'm sure you'll find it, and it's pretty cool. Lots of good.
I didn't know that was a thing.
I didn't
know that was a thing. That's great.
It is a thing. I did it for you.
Thank you very much, Scott.
You.
We appreciate the special time and attention you've given to us today. Have a great evening, and we'll see you next week at Build, Scott.
Bye-bye.
Cheers, bye.
Thanks, Scott.
All right. Well, that was pretty special. JT.
What a treat.
Yeah, I know.
What a way to start a Thursday morning, developers of Australia. Scott Hanselman drops in to say hello.
So you're going to go ahead and share. No, you don't need to share your screen because you're using one of those funky virtual cameras. So I'm going to go and get out of your shot and put you full screen. So when you're ready to rock and roll, over to you to tell us the fantastic story of.
Hopefully my laptop doesn't catch on fire.
Fuse developers, isn't it? Power Platform and Azure, the power of two.
Indeed.
All right.
Indeed.
So I will hand over to you, and I will see you later.
Thank you very much, sir. Let me start my timer so that I don't talk at everybody too much. So as Simon mentioned, one of the things that I've been working on this year, and we actually kicked it off late last year, is something called the Cloud Skills Challenge. Now, Simon will have a link to this later on because there's a public one running, but this is a program that uses Microsoft Learn, which I hope that you're all familiar with as the go-to resource for Microsoft product skilling and learning. And it creates a competition layer over the top of it. So you compete, build skills, earn points, and then hopefully at the end of it, you end up with some really cool prizes. We run these publicly, but we also run these with our customers. We run them with community groups. We run them as part of events. And I sort of do a whole bunch of back office type management of these. So I get in, I brief customers, we get them rolling on it, we set them up, we set up the challenge, we give them some tooling so that they can be really successful with it. And hopefully everybody has a great time, learn some things and earn some prizes at the end of it. One of the problems that I had with that, so, you know, keep in mind that I'm doing a lot of admin around this, and some of it can be a little bit tedious and a little bit repetitive. And so the developer in me was like, all right, cool, I got to automate the hell out of this. One of the very first things that I came up against was whenever we're giving away prizes or having any sort of competition like this, we've got to make sure that we're in compliance. We've got a very good legal team here at Microsoft. So spent some time with them to make sure that we had some T's and C's that go with this, just to make sure that we're, you know, crossing our T's and dotting our I's. They came back with some T's and C's that were sort of boilerplate that I could rinse and repeat depending on who the customer was. And I started off doing find and replace on the terms and conditions. And I was like, this is ridiculous. There's got to be a much better way to do this. So I turned to Azure naturally. And the very first thing that I did was look at the best way to host these T's and C's so that they could be referenced. And I wanted them to be a point in time as well, so that if I changed T's and C's for a future competition, that wouldn't affect a previous version of T's and C's, because you don't want to change contracts out from under people and get in trouble for doing that. So the first thing I did was I leaned on tools that I knew. So I went and I spun up a new Hugo website, and I built out some custom front matter for that and a template. Let me just switch my camera here so you can see my VS Code. So I built out this template. I might just zoom out a little bit so you can see that a little bit better. I built out my template with all of my details of my contract and put some placeholders in there. And then if I go and have a look at this default template, all I have to do now is put in the details of the challenge, and I spin that up and host that on Hugo. And if I switch over here to Microsoft Edge, you will see, let me jump into this one. This is what it looks like when it's presented in a website format. So really easy to consume. And then I was like, all right, cool, I've got to host this thing somewhere. Azure Static website, web apps was in preview at the time. That's now gone GA for folks. So I hosted on that. And what that allowed me to do was I checked all my code into GitHub. I went into the Azure portal. This is our T's and C's application here. All I had to, I was blown away by this, because all I had to do was point it at the GitHub repo and give it permission to access that repo and store some variables. And the thing just worked. I check in a new competition for people, and it immediately, well, not immediately, you got about a 7-second delay, goes live, and that new set of T's and C's shows up. It knows how to build Hugo. I didn't have to write any scripts for it. If we jump back to the repository, you'll see it generates a YAML file, which actually goes, it's a GitHub action that goes and does all of the building and previewing of the Hugo stuff, and then publishes it out to Azure. So that sits there. And that was kind of like, this is probably less than 10 minutes of work. Like 10 would be being generous with this. So I was like, okay, this is really cool. I've got the T's and C's sorted. I've got the boilerplate sorted around that. How else can I? Oh, actually, the other thing that I want to highlight on this is running this. Given it's pretty low traffic, this costs me a total of $0.00. So when I go back to my manager with budget asks for how I want to enable a whole bunch of this stuff for the coming financial year, this is a really cool line item to have, because it's basically nothing, which means that it always gets approved. So once I got that out of the way, I was kind of like, what else can I cheat at? Like, how can I make this even better? The process for when I run one of these challenges with a customer is they either reach out to me and say, hey, we want to do a challenge, or someone from their account team within Microsoft comes to me and says, hey, I've got a customer that would really like to do one of these. What do we do? I brief the customer, I sort of get in touch with them. I talk to them a little bit about the different sorts of challenges that we run. They then pick how they think it'll work best for them. We sort of back and forth on email on some details around that. I then set up the challenge. I send them a link to it. And we give them a bunch of goodies and tools and things like that so that they can run it and have it be really successful and really engage with the people that work for them. So there was a lot of data moving around and a lot of email to keep track of. And I'm sure, like most people watching this, your inbox is full most of the time. I know mine certainly is. So I was like, how do I get away from a bunch of this email and make this sort of a slightly more streamlined experience? So I had played with Power Apps a little bit, and I was like, this is kind of cool for automating away a whole bunch of these business problems. So I jumped into Power Apps, and I'll show you my screen here. And in Power Apps, we've got these. We've got the ability to create tables. If anybody out there has ever done any CRM development, this feels very, very similar to Dynamics CRM. So I went in and I spun up a table of the information that I'm interested in. And if we go and look at some of the data in there, you'll see it's got some names, it's got what type of participants are we going to do, what sort of challenge types have we got, the dates that it's going to run, some descriptions, the sort of stuff that I collect from our customers when I'm talking to them. Then what I did, if I jump back here, is I created a Power Apps portal. Now, this is not the Power Apps app that you get on your phone and things like that. This is just a website. And what it looks like, if I jump into this one, I put a little bit of CSS on it. Like I'm not the world's greatest designer. I wanted to make it look pretty enough that people wouldn't vomit when they looked at it. But so I set up this portal, and now what happens is when I first speak to the customer, I store their details, and then they get this automated email that says, "Hey, thanks for the chat that we had. When you're ready to, when you've discussed this amongst yourselves and you're ready to sort of put this, get this moving forward, click this link and it will take you through to the options for your particular challenge." They go through, they enter their title, they enter a description, they choose some other options, they then hit submit, and that's automatically saved. I didn't have to write any of the logic for saving this. That's just built into the Power Apps portal. So I wrote very little code for this. I almost felt a little bit dirty because I did so much drag and drop on this. But when you've got a million things going on, sometimes you just want to solve the problem. I didn't want to go and build a React or a Vue site to manage all of this. I just wanted to create a form and have it there. The other trick with this was, well, how do I track that back? And so internally, what I'd been doing is tracking these conversations and these challenges with customers using an Excel spreadsheet, because that's kind of the go-to for tracking those sorts of things. And then I was like, this is not very scalable, or doesn't have a lot of rigor around it. And I was like, I'm going to shoot myself in the foot if I keep doing this. So I went and created a list in Sharepoint, and I know that a bunch of developers out there will shudder at the idea of doing Sharepoint stuff, but this is my list. And you can see a status field against a bunch of these challenges. So I had a chat to our privacy team, again, going through the legal hoops. I had a chat to our privacy team and I said, look, what can I do around this? I don't want to put customer information available out on the internet. And they were like, that's good, JT, because we'd hate to have to fire you for violating a whole bunch of rules. So I went back to Power Apps, and I went into our flows here, which will load up in just a second if I'm lucky. And so now what happens is when I go and change something in that SharePoint list and I say I'm awaiting details from the customer, this flow here, if I click edit on this, you'll see this is really, really simple. When an item is modified in that SharePoint list, check its status. And if its status is awaiting details, go and create a new row in my Dataverse table, put some default values in, update the item in SharePoint so that it then it sort of links back. So my internal one can link through to my public facing stuff, but my public facing stuff doesn't, the forms don't link back. So everything's anonymous. And that happens so I sort of use the status on that SharePoint list then as a way to kind of trigger a workflow effectively. And that all ties back into my portal that I can send to my customer. When they go and enter their details, this is an even simpler one. So when a row is added to the table or modified, send JT an email that says, hey, the customer's entered some details. And then I go back and manually set up that challenge. I'm really hoping that the team that owns the challenge is watching this and they're going to give me an API so I can automate the creation piece as well, and get rid of all of the manual labor on that. Once I got that done, I was like, all right, well, cool. Maybe I should automate even more of these emails. And as I mentioned, one of the things that we do is I create the link for the challenge and I send that to the customer. And I also send them a toolkit. So I started automating that, and I got to a point where I was getting a little bit out of the depths of what Power Apps could handle. If I click on this guy here and do peek at code, you'll see the underlying code for the steps in the Power Apps. And what's really interesting about this is if you've ever done any work with Logic Apps on Azure, this will look ridiculously familiar. It's effectively a bunch of the same engine under the hood running the steps on this. So I started off with Power Apps and kind of hit a limit of what I could do with moving some things around in blobs and triggering emails and generating all sorts of kooky stuff. So if I come back to Azure here, what you'll see is I've got, oh no, not the function app. Let me go back to my dashboard. It is called, it's in here somewhere, Toolkit Creator. I created a Logic app, and if I edit this guy, my Logic app does a whole bunch of automation, very similar to Power Apps. It's a little bit more complicated. It does a lot more things. But I was actually able to copy a whole bunch of the steps out of the Power App and use the code view of Logic Apps to translate my Power App almost one for one. There was some modifications, but I think what's really interesting about this is I started off doing something fairly quick and dirty, and then as I got more involved, I had this really nice migration path up to Azure, and this piece is running on Azure. And the key thing that this does is it actually calls out, I think it's this step here. No, it's not that step there. No, it is that step there. This calls out to an Azure function. So I went and wrote some C# code where I needed to do some more heavy lifting, wrote some C# code, and that gets called out. And then this does a whole bunch of additional automation. And that was kind of my takeaway from this was I started off on Azure, and then I wanted to do some automation. I was like, Power Apps seems like the right fit for this. And then when I kind of pushed up against the boundaries of Power Apps, I had this really nice migration path to take me back up to Azure and build something really cool, and let me use the tool. Most importantly, let me use the tools that I was familiar with. And I think if you were not a Logic Apps person and you were a Power Apps person and you needed to migrate, there's enough familiarity in there that you could probably migrate that yourself and build out to something a bit larger. And if you're not a what we I think citizen dev is a term that's often used, which I don't like, but if you're that citizen dev, no code, low code type of person with a little help from someone with some developer expertise, you could scale this stuff out really nicely. I thought it was cool enough that I sort of had a chat with Simon and said, hey, do you think that we should share this with people and show them some stuff that we've done? And he said yes. And so here I am on the show.
Fantastic. Yeah. I think like you've said, that migration experience from Power Platform and Power Apps or Power Automate Flow to Logic Apps is a really nice clean one as well. And there are a lot of overlapping capabilities there. And I think,
I think it's a really powerful experience for people, for sure.
Yeah. And a bit like yourself, the first time you kind of play in that low code, no code space, you like, I just want to see some source code here. Can I not just type something somewhere? And I think once you get past that and you suddenly realize the power of having, 400 plus different connectors and an extensibility model and an ability to write some code as well, certainly with Logic Apps, with the ability to do JavaScript code snippets, I think you can actually be quite productive and solve fairly common scenarios quickly and easily. And I think also it provides, the Power Platform provides you with that kind of rapid app, proof of concept style of development, which can be a little bit daunting to start with a blank canvas inside of Azure sometimes, just given the wide volume of services that are in there. JT, that was awesome, and I really like it because it's grounded in a real solution, right? It shows exactly how this technology can be used to solve a problem that you have in front of you without necessarily having to try and boil the ocean of having to stand up all these services yourself. It's literally as a service. It's really that promise of where we're going. What I wanted to quickly do is I'm just going to chuck up the link to the current Cloud Skills Challenge that's running here in Australia. So if you go to that link that's on your screen right now, you can register for the Cloud Skills Challenge. So this is a broad community challenge that's running. So it's not for a specific customer that we also offer for. So if you are interested in finding out more about how to do Cloud Skills Challenge in your particular business, either reach out to myself or JT. Details will be available in the show notes. But if you do want to go and sign up to that Cloud Skills Challenge, you can. It's running through until the 17th of June. So you have a chance to get in and really get hands-on with the platform. You'll no doubt be seeing some more build around the Cloud Skills Challenge going forward. And Microsoft Learn, like JT said, is a really awesome resource outside of the Cloud Skills Challenge. JT, awesome. I always love chatting with you and hearing from you because you really bring a different view of the world sometimes to someone a bit like me who's a bit of a rusted on Microsoft fanboy. So it's great to see the work that you've done in this space. Hang around while we wrap up the show. So look, thanks a lot everyone for joining us today. As we said, JT just did an amazing run through of using the power of Power Platform and Azure to stand up solutions quickly. I won't say easily because sometimes it's not quite that easy if you don't have the baseline understanding, but I think if you're an experienced dev, using tools like Hugo and what have you to stand up static web apps, you now see that we've got some really compelling offers in that space. Next week is Microsoft Build. We are doing a special new Breakpoint episode that will be on the 26th of May at 3 p.m. It's in the schedule. So if you do go in and create an account and then have a look through the schedule builder, you'll be able to find our show there. Please register for it. It's going to be an amazing show. We've got Girl Geek Academy. We've got three of the fantastic ladies there from Girl Geek Academy joining us to talk about the opportunity of how we can build next generation technologists in an inclusive and diverse way. And then we have a couple of Microsoft Australia Cloud Solution Architects who are going to show us how to take an idea from zero to global in under 15 minutes. And I know that both of those topics are really well done. And I look forward to seeing everybody there. So JT, thank you very much for joining us today. Let's give everybody out in viewer land a wave before we wrap up the show for today. So see you later, everybody.
Thank you for having me.
Oh, it was awesome.
I can't get my wave in. screen.
you've
There we
got-
go.
yeah,
I'm going to go see if Scott Hanselman's added our Australian Connect session to his backpack to build.
All right, you let me know. I'll chat with you after the show today. But that's it for the show for today, everybody. So we'll see you again soon. Bye for now.